to Mission to Inspire. It's Shola again on Mission to Inspire. And I'm joined here today by one of our very, very wonderful guests. Oh my God. Hi, Logan. How are you?
Hi, Shola. Doing well. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for coming on our show. Logan is here all the way from Alaska, and he is going to be talking to us on a very, very special topic. But before we go into that topic, I will just leave it to him to introduce himself properly and tell us more about him.
Sure. So I'll get pretty quickly to the meat of it. I mean, I'm Logan, and I'm no longer in bondage to sexual addiction, and that's a statement that 8, 9, 10 years ago, I never could have fathomed that I could have said those words, because the lifestyle, the routines, the way of living that I had gotten myself into, and I do emphasize that I got myself into. That was no one else's fault. It wasn't addiction's fault, but I did get to a point where I literally just I felt like I was trapped in a cave, and I got myself in the cave, but I also got to a point where I'm going, I don't know how to get out of this cave, and I don't even know if there's a way to get out. And so I've been incredibly blessed to be shown a way out. And right now, part of my giving back I'm just here trying to shout from your rooftop right now that hey, there is a way out. There's a different way to live.
Wow. Oh my God. And that brings me today to let our audience, know that we are actually talking about overcoming sexual addiction and embracing transformation. So, wow, it's a very big topic. It's a very personal topic as well. And yeah, Logan will be sharing some of his journey through that into transformation and how that has actually evolved in his life. Can you take us through your journey actually of realizing and acknowledging your struggle with sexual addiction? When did you know that you were addicted to sex?
I didn't know that I was addicted until long after I was. I'll tell you that for sure. Realistically, the term sex addict, I didn't think of that term at all. I didn't think that was me until I was almost in recovery. I knew that I had a problem. I knew that I completely had I had given myself over to such unhealthy ways of living. Right. I would say probably, within the first couple years of marriage, at that point, I cheated on my wife multiple times. And it wasn't like, oh, I was on a business trip and I had a drink at the hotel and one thing led to another and I accidentally did something, which should not be an accident. It was like, it wasn't like a one-time thing. It was something that had become, I'd done it multiple times, and it didn't start there. It started with, I'll go back to the start of, it was pornography as a kid, as a teenager, which then led to flirting and seeking whatever attention I could get from women.
Yeah.
And then when I met the woman who would become my wife, when we first started dating, I didn't recognize that I had problems because I minimized the porn. I was like, well, I don't like that I look at the porn, and I don't like that I struggle with it. But I guess everyone does it. So, I'll just try to do it less. And at that point, I hadn't had a serious, stable relationship. And so I had never cheated on anyone. And so I didn't think that it was a big deal. But yeah, when I had that relationship with my wife, we were dating, then we're engaged, and then I cheated on her for the first time, and then a dam broke. then it was like, okay, I never thought I would do that. I never thought I could do that.
Right.
But all of the things that had been building up, the chasing after porn, the chasing after attention from women, the flirting, all of that was me training myself, even though I didn't realize that I was doing it. I was training myself to chase after new and different and risky and just chasing after a harder and harder drug, essentially. And so once I started um, having sexual affairs, sexual encounters with other women, um, I hated myself and hated that I did it. And yet at the same time, it was a stronger drug than I'd ever had before.
Wow.
So again, there's a long way of trying to answer your question of, there's not like a specific day or a specific moment in time. But definitely, I guess as soon as, a year after, about a year after we got married, I wrote a letter to my wife and I confessed multiple counts of adultery. I felt terrible and I legitimately thought that I wasn't going to do it anymore, as if it was a toggle switch that I could just turn off and just not do it. But again, these were not light habits or light routines and behaviors. These were things that I had instilled in myself and groomed essentially over years. So I knew I had a problem, although I definitely, the term sex addict was not even a part of my vocabulary.
Oh my God. Wow. So what was the turning point for you especially in your recovery process, especially in terms of the spiritual and emotional process? What was the turning point?
Yeah. So I do want to give a little bit of context to the spiritual part. So because I grew up in a home where we were taught the Bible, we were taught about God. It was a stable, loving home. That's another thing too, is like I didn't have trauma or abuse in my childhood. I didn't need something specific to push me to addiction.
Yeah.
I found it on my own. And there's never been a day in my life that I didn't believe that God is real, that I didn't believe that Jesus was real. It just, I never felt an intimate relationship with him, because it was like, I've just done so many terrible things. I've prayed and I've confessed it and nothing's changing. And I guess it's just not for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, during this whole time, I would have an affair on Friday and, feel terrible all day Saturday. And then we go to church on Sunday, and just that I had this crazy, terrible double life. So all this time I hated myself. I hated that God created me.
Did you see anything wrong in what you were doing then?
Absolutely. I knew that it was wrong. There was no part of me that was like, oh, this isn't so bad. Oh, it was just an affair. Oh, it was just porn. Like I knew that I was hurting my wife. I knew that I was hurting other people. Did I know the extent? No, I mean, not realistically, not to the extent that I can look back now as a healthy person, but I knew that it was wrong. I did everything I could to lie to myself in the moment to try to, stay sane, basically, so that I could go home and not literally just like slip into insanity. But I knew that it was wrong, and I hated myself and what I was doing. But there's a series of landmarks in our story, and I say our because it's amazingly God brought me out of this, and He brought my wife out of her own trauma that I had put her through. So the first landmark really was 2015. So at this point, we've been married for 4 years. We've got 3 boys, and my wife is pregnant with our 4th boy. And I had another affair. So at that point, years of pornography, multiple affairs. It gotten to the point where I was hiring prostitutes in addition to the sexual affairs. Just completely given myself over to this. And I had another affair. It was a month-long affair, the summer of 2015. And my wife finally did something she never had done before. Because what she'd done to that point, she had no clue what to do, right? Like no woman should have to be prepared for this. And so what she had done before was, she would tell you this, like I've heard this from her own mouth. She tried to be a better wife. She tried to be more loving. She tried to be sexier. She tried to be more available because she thought that I was cheating on her because she wasn't enough or because I didn't love her. It's never about her. It was about how I had trained myself in this terrible, unhealthy, depraved way. So what she did in 2015, which was a complete miracle, because this is not in her nature, she gave me an ultimatum. She said, well, it wasn't in her nature then. She gave me an ultimatum and she said, Logan, if you don't get serious help, if you don't make real change, then I'm gone.
Wow.
And the thought of losing her and the kids scared the crap out of me. Like, I had long since given up any hope for a good life. I'd long since given up any hope for a relationship with my savior. Like, none of that was going to be for me because I was just too bad of a person. But I wanted to try and keep my wife. I wanted to try and keep my kids if I could.
Yeah.
So that was the first landmark. Now, that was the summer of 2015.
Okay.
My sobriety date, in terms of no longer acting out to sexual addiction, masturbation, pornography, sexual contact with other women besides my wife.
Yeah.
My sobriety date's not until May 19th of 2016. So that's almost a year.
Right.
So it wasn't, the toggle switch doesn't exist, right? Like, I didn't flip a switch and just stop. But that was when, she finally stood up to her abuser, right? And said, I can't make you stop, but if you don't stop, then I'm gone. And I played around and I went to some meetings and I did some things. But it wasn't until it was another landmark where I met a guy at one of these meetings. Most meetings are set up in a way, and I'm not here to bash meetings. I thank God for meetings that exist where people are taking time out of their day, out of their lives to try and help others, right? But just as a fact, most recovery meetings are set up in a way that they want it to be a safe space. I understand that, but part of that infrastructure, generally speaking, Shola, is that if I come to the meeting and I'm struggling, I share. Nobody's allowed to give me feedback or ask me questions because they want it to be a safe place for me. But here's the problem. I was an addict. I was a manipulator. I was a liar. I was somebody who was very good at gaslighting and slipping the wool over everyone around me to get what I wanted. I didn't need a safe space. I needed people to call me out on my crap. And so I met a guy at one of these meetings and he said, hey, I'm glad you're here. Like, good on you for being here. Given your story, I think you need something more than this meeting. He goes, I needed something more. He told me about a group called Prodigals.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want like a bunch of hard work. Like, I just want to stop doing this. And so I kept him at arm's length for a while. And at one point I told him, I said, hey, his name was Rick. I go, Rick, okay, I'm willing to do some stuff. Maybe we could get together for coffee every now and again. Like, that would be something, right? And he goes, Logan, if you want to get together for coffee every now and again, I don't have time for you. And that hurt me. That hurt my feelings. That was offensive. That didn't feel safe, Shola. But then he quickly followed it up. He goes, Logan, if you want to seriously work on this, if you want help, I will walk with you. And I'll take you down the path that men have taken me, and we will work on this. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be getting together for coffee every now and again. It's going to be hard work, and you're not going to like it. And so finally, in March of 2016, I went to a Prodigals meeting in Anchorage, Alaska, and so still, took a couple months to get sober, right? Still a couple months before I had traction. But God gave me something. This is another landmark. God gave me something in that meeting that I never had before. I sat down, got a chance to meet some guys. There's like 20 guys in this group, and they're all there to work on sexual addiction recovery. And out of those guys, probably about half of them had years of sobriety, had 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, some guys 15, 20 years. There's several guys at that group that had more than 15 years of healthy living, and they had similar stories to mine. And I didn't think that that was possible. Given where I had gone, given the type of choices that I'd made, the ways that I'd hurt people, there was no way that I could ever live a healthy life, I thought. And so God gave me hope that, okay, there's a different way. So at that point, I'm like, I don't know what these guys did. I don't know how they've done it. I don't know what it would look like for me, but I'm willing to try. So that was the point where God really gave me that hope that there is a different way.
Right. So it is God all the way, basically.
Yeah. It's been, I mean, this whole thing has been like, I mean, among many lessons, has been an exercise in humility.
Right.
It's been an exercise in God going, okay, Logan, so you've had 25, 26 years of doing things your way. How's that working out?
That's true.
Now we're gonna do things my way. We're gonna do things with you submitting your decision-making process to other people. You're going to not just do things based on your whims, but you're actually gonna invite external counsel. You know, you're gonna get feedback. You're gonna have other people speak into your life. And it wasn't even about people telling me what to do, or, you know, everyone became my parent. Like, yeah, there were some rules and stuff. Most of it was guys would continually say, like, you're free to make your choices, but don't expect to make whatever choices you want and us not ask about them, or us to not give you feedback.
It's very true. That's very true. Wow. Wow. Oh my God. What can I say? What can I say? Oh, you must have been through a lot, because you will have struggled with your own emotion,
Right.
spirituality, and then confiding in people around you, because sometimes it's a struggle, because then it can take us to a place of shame
Right.
and out of that. So yeah, well done though, for going through that recovery process and for being who you are now and being able to share this. And I know that you're a coach.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, recovery has never left my life. I mean, I work with men, you know, helping them with go through their sexual addiction recovery process. My wife works with women that have been hurt in that by men that are struggling. But yeah, I don't do it for a living. Maybe at some point, I have thoughts.
Right.
But yeah, what I do for a living is personal finance coaching, which might sound like it has nothing to do with sexual addiction, and yet I don't know. At least the way I do it, there's a lot of crossover.
Okay, so for people that want to get in contact with you, that might want you to coach them, how can they contact you?
Sure, and I do want to make it clear. I mean, I'm not coming on podcast to get clients for coaching. As far as that's my purpose is to, you know, strictly regarding sexual addiction, and just trying to help folks know that there's hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I the only reason, you know, I include in my about me, you know, is as that I use my recovery tools in my coaching when it comes to finances. The way I'll say it kind of jokingly, but it's totally serious, is, you know, okay, Monday night, that's our recovery night. That's when we have our meetings. Monday night, I'll help, you know, I do what I can to help guys work on their sexual addiction. And then Tuesday morning, I might help a couple that's trying to get healthier with their habits, with their credit cards or with their Amazon. Like, you know, those are different things, but in both cases, we're going to work on impulsivity. We're going to work on healthy decision making. We're going to work on, you know, having healthy motivations for things and being intentional. So before I ever bring on a client, I mean, I make it very clear, you're not going to find any fancy diplomas behind me. Like, I didn't go to school for finance. I know some things. I have some experience and some wisdom when it comes to finances. But my expertise doesn't come from a university. It comes from working with humans, you know, for the last 8 years in recovery, and obviously going through my own process. I'll make sure that you can give out, there's an email and a website, you know, if folks want resources. Again, I mean, if somebody has a question with personal finances, that's totally fine. But I'm primarily just want to spread the word, with recovery. But Prodigals info at Creekside is an email that it goes to me and it goes to my wife, because if a woman is struggling
Yeah.
and she's been hurt, then
Yeah.
she has questions my wife can talk her through. If a man is struggling, then you can reach out to me. And then prodigalsofalaska.com. Again, I'll give you these so you can put them in the show notes, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that is a website that has some info and resources regarding sexual addiction recovery. Some of it's low, like it talks about the meetings that are in Alaska, but a lot of it's good for anyone around the world. There's some recommended books. There is contact info for myself. I'm not going to pretend that, realistically, if somebody were to reach out, I'm not going to pretend that, oh yeah, I'll be the one to walk with you for the next 10 years of your life. No, I mean, that's not realistic. But I would be happy to, respond to an email, jump on a quick phone call, share some resources that might be available to you, or just talk you through questions that you have.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for providing that information. As
Absolutely.
as someone who now leads, because from what you've just said, you actually lead a recovery group,
Right.
and help find freedom. So what advice would you give to someone who is currently struggling?
I'll answer this in two different ways.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do what I try not to do, which is generalize. I'm gonna so somebody struggling, if you're a guy struggling, I'll put you into one of two buckets. So either you are, maybe you're like me in kind of 2012, 13, 14, where it's like, okay, I don't know what to do. I hate that I'm doing this. I know I've got a problem, but I don't know what. You are not the only one. I given what I had done, I mean, I knew other guys had cheated on their wives. I knew guys had hired prostitutes. I thought I was the only one who knew better and yet still did all this and had this incredible of a family. Like that's because so no matter what you have done, I promise you, you're not the only one. And consequences are a real thing. But at least in terms of working through the problem, working to the root of the issue, and getting help, there is a way out. You don't have to be in that cave. There is a way out of that cave. The other bucket would be, somebody that maybe has done some of these things. Oh, I look at a little bit more porn than I like, or yeah, okay, I guess I do flirt with, people at work or whatever, but I would never cheat. If you're somebody who recognizes some of this in you, but you would never say you have a problem, like, and I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to tell you what will happen or what you need to do. But I'm just going to say this thing, lust, sexual addiction, behaviors around this, they don't stay static. They progress. They continue to take. I started out looking at, when I was 9 years old, looking at pictures in JCPenney catalogs. And it got to where, 15 years later, I'm hiring prostitutes. That's not everyone's story. Not every single person progresses the same way. It doesn't manifest the same in every man. But it will grow. It will progress. And so just recognize, like, if you have these behaviors, they're not gonna, it's like a monster. It's gonna keep eating and keep taking. So just recognize that.
You said from 9 years old you were watching pictures. How? Why? I mean, I'm just curious.
As when I started as a 9-year-old.
That time.
So yeah, I mean, it was I mean, and I'm 33. I'm younger than some, older than some. I mean, in some ways, okay, it's a very different time than, okay, the 50s or the 60s. But at the same time, I mean, it almost feels like the 50s or the 60s compared to today. Like, there was no laptop laying around with, high-speed internet. There were no iPads and iPhones. And also, I was in a really conservative home where there were no Playboy magazines. There were, but what I remember once a year, the JCPenney catalog would come, and it's like this giant catalog, and at least it used to be. And it would have, there was a section in there with, swimwear and with lingerie. And as about it, I've arbitrarily chosen the age of 9. Maybe I was 8, maybe I was 10, I don't know. But I was before puberty, before knowing how sex worked, before any of that.
Yeah.
I found those pictures, and I remember going, just thinking to myself, feeling like I like how I feel when I see these pictures. And so that's literally how it started. And I bring that up because there are folks out there that might look at something like that and go, oh, well, that's, hey, I mean, boys will be boys, and everyone's gonna enjoy looking at a pretty lady. And it's like there is a part of my biology that, yes, as a human, I mean, we were created to be attracted to the opposite sex. I mean, that's how we procreate. But what I did with it was not healthy. What I did with it was, okay, I want to look at more, and I'm not going to talk to my parents about it. I'm not going to ask about it. And I'm going to, eventually when I could, I would look at, pictures online, which then I started looking at videos, and then just continued to train myself like Pavlov's dog. Okay. I whenever there's an opportunity, I want to go look, and I want to go get that hit, that feeling.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Anyway, thank you for sharing that. I mean,
Absolutely.
transitioning from addiction to your recovery,
Yeah.
and then to personal finance coaching. How did you see the principles of healing and transformation? Because it will have been intersecting from different areas of life. So, um, how do you see?
How do I see the principles like crossing over?
Yeah, crossing over. Is that?
Yeah. So the the first way that I saw a crossover was I was still in the car business. I was no longer selling cars because I sold cars during most of my addiction, and that's how I would eat the women that I would prey on. But for 4.5 years, I was a finance manager at a couple different car dealerships, and was looking for a way to get out of that. But I got an opportunity to come onto a wealth management firm.
Yeah.
They wanted to have a personal coach for finances. And I remember like, well, okay, like that's not really my cup of tea. Like, yeah, I've been around finances, but it's not really exciting. But I was going through a certification course, and they talk of is a Dave Ramsey certification course, and they talked about inspire hope.
Oh, okay.
And they're giving examples of like, this person that's $50,000 in credit card debt, this person that has, hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans, like they need hope. They need to know that there's a way out.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard those words, I mean, this might sound corny, but I mean this with all sincerity. As soon as I heard that word hope, it hit me. I'm like, okay, I could do that, because that money, finances, that doesn't get me going. And I tell that to my clients, like, this is not my passion. My passion is helping people. And, I happen to have a job that, is in the financial industry, helping people with their finances, but ultimately, like, I don't necessarily care what you have in your bank account or how much debt you have. I care, are you getting healthier? Are you getting healthier with how you approach your finances? Are you getting help if you're married? Are you healthier with how you talk about finances with your spouse? Are you healthier with how you plan for things, with how you make decisions? So the crossovers, honestly, they're constant. Now, this is my style. There's other styles of coaching where it's more, hey, I'm kind of an expert in this field, or I know all the tips and tricks when it comes to winning with money, and there's value in that. That's just not me. My style is much more coming from the human behavior side, and helping folks unpack their unhealthy routines, their unhealthy impulses, the unhealthy ways that they've trained their brain. Because that's the thing, we've all trained our brains in different ways. Every time I make a choice, I am training my brain that thing I'm choosing is something worth doing. Usually it's pretty small. It's like, okay, I'm going to go get a coffee in the morning. I'm training my brain that I should have coffee in the morning. I'm not willing to deal with that addiction right now. I love my coffee. But I mean, but literally like I mean, the idea of taking the stairs, right, instead of the elevator. If I do that enough, I'm training my brain that I should be taking the stairs, and before too long, it will become a routine.
Yes.
The issue is, like me, when we do things that are unhealthy, when we do things that are potentially destructive, and we train our brains that that's something worth doing. And a lot of people don't recognize that, just how much our brains are incredibly complex, and yet there's almost like a simplicity to it in a way.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Mm-mm.
It's easy and simple are different words, but right, it's like, but there is a simplicity to just the repetition. So if I want to get healthy, okay, I need to work on healthy repetitions of things that are productive, things that I can work on.
Thank you for that. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, one last question.
Sure.
If you could speak directly to someone who feels trapped in the same darkness that you were once trapped, what would your message be? What would you like to share? And that would be your message of hope.
What's that?
Your message of hope. Yeah. To someone who is trapped in the same, sexual addiction or a place of darkness.
Yeah. I got myself into that cave by doing things the way that I saw fit to do them,
Right.
whether I thought they were healthy or not. And so if I wanted to get out, I had to learn to do things other people's way. And so, if you're trapped, you've got to be willing to do things differently than what feels right to you.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm just going to continue to do things the same way and expect the different results.
And I think that's very true. And I think it's all to do with our mindset, isn't it? We just need to train our mind first.
Yeah.
To believe in other people that they can help us, because that's another thing.
Right. And I need to let people in, right? It's not just about, okay, I guess I'll just go on this journey of training my brain, but I'm going to do it by myself. I'm not going to talk about it. And I'm not going to, it's like, very few people can do the Lone Ranger thing. And there are some people that can be externally successful as a Lone Ranger. And yet I would venture to say they're not necessarily that healthy from a holistic perspective. Like, they might be successful in business or successful in finances or whatever, but humans were not created to be Lone Rangers. We need connection. We need healthy connection. If we don't seek out healthy connection, what are we going to seek out? We're going to seek out unhealthy connection, because we naturally need connection.
We need that connection. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have truly enjoyed and learned from you today. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you again, Shola. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. And it's from Shola and Logan. Bye. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Like, follow, comment. Until next time. Goodbye.